Hello everyone, my name is Rob, welcome to Kinetic Rugby League. In this video I'm going to be giving you my match review of New Zealand versus Ireland. So let's get started. So starting with the losing team, which was Ireland, they put 10 points past New Zealand. They completed at only 68%. They had 11 errors, 8 penalties and 94 missed tackles. Absolutely atrocious. A lot of penalties, a lot of 6 agains for New Zealand. A lot of the times they can be like 50-50s and it's just whatever the referee's opinion is, but they gave away a lot of 6 agains, which you just cannot have. In terms of, I'll start with the negatives and try and find some positives. The negatives is they had no control over the game whatsoever. It didn't feel like there was a 5-minute phase. It didn't feel like there was a set where it's like, okay, they're on the front foot. They're causing issues for New Zealand's defence. They could try and get something out of this. Nah, didn't feel like they had any control over the game. The line was broken way too easily. Whether it was Jerome Hughes running through the middle, Joey Manu, any of the forwards, it was just sloppy defensive work. I mean, there may be like defending third tackle at the halfway line. Shouldn't be any threat from New Zealand in that specific set, but oh no, wait, they've let somebody go through for another 20 metres, and now they're defending on their own line by the last tackle. So yeah, defensively they were atrocious. However, early on they did cause some issues and they made it difficult in parts for New Zealand to be creative and spread the ball, and they were quite aggressive, getting 2 or 3 men into the tackle, pushing them into the ground, just being really strong, and they did that in moments, but the game as a whole they were just poor defensively. In terms of the positives, I would probably go back to what I just said about the aggressive defense, and I guess Lewis Senior with an interception and then coming up with a try from a mistake. And it's pretty poor that you score 2 tries past New Zealand. That's pretty good, but one of them's an interception, the other one's from a mistake. Like, it's just nothing was created from themselves. But obviously Lewis Senior had to come up with that play in the first place to make the interception. It wasn't like it was a looping ball over the top where he's got time to look at it. No, he makes the play to put his arm out, and fair play to him for that one. But yeah, it was just, Ireland had their moments once every 5 minutes. It was a good moment once every 5 minutes, and the rest of it, the 4 minutes, they were just poor. So yeah, simply not good enough from Ireland. I think they were very lucky to not lose by more, if I'm honest. Now moving on to the winning team, which was New Zealand. They put 48 points past Ireland. They completed at 84%. They had 65% possession, 9 line breaks, and dominated in every other stats area, basically. Looking at the halves, one was world class, the other one was bang average. I'm sure you can guess which one was world class. Jerome Hughes, obviously. First half, he had a try and I think 3 assists, possibly 4. I think it was 3 assists, but Dylan Brown looked absolutely clueless today. For what you expect from him and how he plays for the Eels, this was just not a good performance at all today. That whole left side for New Zealand looked sloppy. The right hand side looked exceptionally good, and that's basically because you had Dylan Brown on the left and Jerome Hughes on the right. This could have been not a loss. They weren't going to lose this game, but a much closer scoreline, because they wouldn't have been able to create anything if Jerome Hughes wasn't in this game, because he basically made everything happen. He controlled everything: the kicking game, game management, creating opportunities, opening up the Irish defence. He was excellent, whereas Dylan Brown was completely clueless and couldn't do anything. I mean, including his kicking, his conversions, that's not even the main point. He just didn't know what he was doing when he got the ball. And I think there was like 8 minutes to go. It's 3-on-1 down the left-hand side. Mulatalo is wide open. He throws not even a perfect ball, just a regular, decent ball to Mulatalo, and he's in for a try. And he throws it 2 meters forwards. Loops it over the top and it's 2 meters forwards. He doesn't need to do that. And that just kind of summed up his game. He just looked clueless and didn't really know what he was doing. I expect so much better from him, given the level he plays at for the Eels. That's unacceptable. But Jerome Hughes was world class today. I thought the forwards for New Zealand were excellent. They dominated everything. Absolutely everything. They were just... Ireland were nowhere near what the forwards of New Zealand could produce. Nowhere near. Literally every forward, from the Bromwich brothers to Asfa Solomona to Fisher Harris, completely dominant. I'll get on to Jared Warrior-Hargreaves in a minute though. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of positives that they can take. I think this was New Zealand's best performance. Now you can, of course, say, well, what about the game against Jamaica? Yes, but that was always going to be a much easier game. Against a stronger team like Ireland, who I guess we can now tell aren't as strong as Lebanon, it was a much more complete performance, much more dominant from the forwards, much more creative. They had their sloppy moments, trying to offload at times they didn't need to. I think that's something that they've done in all 3 games at this point, is they've had some stupid moments and just not really thought clearly. But with Jerome Hughes back in the side, they should be able to progress comfortably going throughout this this tournament. But going on to Jared Warrior-Hargreaves as my final point, I don't know what goes through this guy's head. I do not understand how you just take a 3-game suspension, you come back, first game of the World Cup, you're on for 10 minutes, and you get a sin bin. How stupid do you have to be to continuously put your team in negative positions? Now, I know he's been a big name in the NRL for years. I've known he's existed. But surely there are other props out there who are not as much of a liability as this guy. I don't know what goes through his head sometimes, but it's not smart thoughts, that's for sure. Because does he feel the need to wipe everybody's skull off? I get aggression, I understand that. I've got no issues with aggression, I welcome it in the game. But just sheer stupidity. Now, I think the best thing for New Zealand when it comes to Warrior-Hargreaves, this is not going to happen, but the best thing for them is that he now gets a 3-game suspension. He's going to get 1, if any. I don't think he will get a suspension, if I'm honest, but if he does, it'll be 1. But they'd be lucky to have a 3-game suspension, so they don't have to bring him back on. Because then what do? Do you start him? And then if he gets a sin bin, at least you've got the rest of the game to make it up. But if you start him and he gets a red card, then you got the rest of the game with the man down. What do? I love props that are aggressive and that are dominant. He is one of those players. But there's such a level of stupidity that you do not need that he brings to this team. So if I'm the head coach, which I'm not, obviously, the smartest thing I feel that I can do is never play him again in this World Cup. He is a liability. Fisher Harris, Bromwich, Asfa Solomona, they're doing fine. They are doing just fine. You do not need Warrior-Hargreaves in this team at all. Even play Brandon Smith at prop. I don't care. Just don't put this guy on the field again. I think they were lucky that he actually picked up an injury, so they took him off. I know I've maybe gone in a bit too harsh on him there, but I just don't understand the stupidity sometimes from him. I don't get it. But overall, for New Zealand, they should be a lot happier with this performance. Dominated in the forwards, a lot more clinical, especially due to Jerome Hughes. This is probably Ireland out of the tournament now, unless there's a miraculous dominant victory from Jamaica against Lebanon. Yeah, this is Ireland's World Cup over. They had a good go with it. They looked good at first and then it just kind of fell apart. But yeah, unfortunate for Ireland, but positive things looking forward for New Zealand, definitely. So that's going to be it for this video. If you have any thoughts on the New Zealand versus Ireland game, leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with new content. You can also follow the social media accounts in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.